Hello, this is R&R. I'm Pervy. We'll be needing a strap today, a blanket if you have one, and instead of a strap, you can use pretty much anything that can tie your shins together for legs up the wall. So our first pose will be a supine twist with the legs in eagle bind. And I'm going to suggest we all start together. So when you work to your mat, you're just going to come to lying down. Okay, last week we kind of used a blanket and a block in our twist pose of the week. So um, we'll start with a twist to the knees to the right and your chest open to the ceiling. So you have a couple options for this blanket. You can have it to go under your left arm. Your left leg will be on top. Your knees will go to the right. And then you can pick up the head and turn it to the left. Now, if that feels like a lot, you can just go back to stacking the knees. Okay. If crossing that left leg doesn't work, you can also take this blanket, I'm going to show it to you from the other side. And again, left leg on top, hips can go slightly to the left, knees go to the right. You can bring that blanket underneath, and I even like to roll it up a little bit so that top knee gets a little more support. So it's under the shin and the knee of the left leg. And then once again, if you want to take the twist all the way into the cervical spine, you can glance over to the left. Get comfortable. We'll be here for at least a couple of minutes, a few minutes. And we're starting with this slight extension of the spine, definitely rotation of the spine. And yeah, find your breath. One of our mindfulness tools. What is the pace of your breath as you set up the pose? What's the experience of the breath once you settle in? Does it seem to relate to the experiences of the mind? We experience stress and tension when we either do, the fight, freeze, flight experience. The mind grows rapid, the heart beats faster, the breath becomes shallow. And in this experience, we're just trying to fall into a natural flow, but one that encourages the breath to be full. So breathe in as much as you can and it feels right, and then take that same quality on the breath out. Start to harmonize yourself. Breathing in and breathing out. As you hold the pose, and the mind will wander. Be generous with yourself. Come back to your breath. The prop supporting you. Your body sits in a rotation of the spine. There might be parts of the spine that in the torso that feel more open, like up near the chest and the collarbone. See if you can take up a little more space with the breath up there. There might be a little more constricting compression in the low part of the torso and the navel. You might be able to empty a little more deeply, release a little further into yourself. Continue to breathe steadily. We're more than halfway there. Take our last 5 cycles of breath. 5 more inhales, 5 more exhales. Notice how you feel in this shape, in this pose after an extended period of time. At least, in comparison to our more young practices where we move quickly from the pose. I'm going to ask you work towards a neutral spine. So even if you don't have props, this pose is right here for you, okay? You'll work your way with the gaze going to the ceiling first. Slowly, mindfully, bring the legs through center, uncross the legs. Notice any feeling of cold blood flow, warmth moving through. You'll take your feet and walk them a little further apart, let the knees buckle in. Any sensations you experience, and then give yourself a nice big hug here. Take an inhale, keeping the feet on the ground, just arms around the chest. Exhale. Switch arms on top. Take a deep breath in. Feel your feet on the ground, the back of your heart on the ground. Exhale. And then you'll just allow your arms to fall apart to the sides. You'll walk your feet together. This time, right thigh will cross over left. Hips can go slightly to the right. Knees can go to the left. You can have that blanket under the right arm if you'd like, the right shoulder if it needs a little extra support. You can also bring it under the shin of that top right leg. Finding a version of this on the opposite side. What you feel here might be very similar, might be quite different from the other side. So be patient with it. Start to observe it. What is the story you tell yourself? Am I not as mobile? Am I so tight? This feels different. We maybe try to explain away the experiences within our body, the thoughts running through our head. I have a lot going on. I have a deadline. All of the thoughts, all of the feelings are valid. Just give them some space to move on. But our hope for this practice right now is to be right where we are. And then maybe observe the stories, the experiences, the emotions we put on the physical experience, the mental experience, any themes that come up. And we keep breathing through them. Long, steady inhale. Generous release with the exhale. We reclaim our power. We choose the story. So we observe the first story. We spend time with ourselves. We take note. And then we can choose. What do we want to tell ourselves? That we are whole, that we are enough. When the mind wanders, keep coming back to the breath. Five more rounds in and out. As you finish up the twist on the side, you'll just gently find your way back towards that neutral spine. You'll look up to the ceiling. You'll bring your knees through center. You'll release the top leg. Both feet on the ground. Both hips on the ground. Let's walk the feet apart, let the knees buckle in. Once again, give yourself a big hug around the chest. Breathe in, feel the back of your heart on the ground, your feet rooted, your knees connected. Exhale through the mouth, let it go. And then you'll switch which arms on top. Once again, a big inhale. Feeling the back of your lungs expand. And a full exhale. And then it's slow and steady. You'll walk your feet together. Take them over the knees to one side. Bring your hands over. Knees go to the right, hands go to the right. And help yourself up to seated. You can find a comfortable cross-legged posture or kneeling posture. Just take a nice little side bend. So left hand stays on the ground, reach the right arm up, take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, bend over, reach the right fingers to the left. Root that right hip down. Maybe look up as you breathe in and look down as you breathe out. One more inhale, looking through center. Exhale, soften the left ribs. And then breathe in, sit up nice and tall. Reset on the exhale. Use the inhale to reach the left fingers up. As you exhale, bend over to the right. How much you have lateral flexion on this side, again, will vary. It'll be different from side to side. It might be a very subtle difference. It might be a big difference. Take that really long breath. Fill the left lung. Breathe out as the right ribs soften. And then inhale. Sit up nice and tall. Okay. And our pose for our last little fold pose before we come to legs up the wall will be a child's pose. So you've got that blanket, you've got a few options. I think a nice place to sometimes have this is just underneath the knees. Taking them nice and wide. And if you have a block, you can bring it so the forehead comes up and rests on the block so you have a place to rest. I know that flexion for some of us can be really hard. So even if you have like a table or a chair, a couch, your fold might look like something where you're leaning onto a prop that's more elevated. So there's not as much compression on your knee joints where you're coming forward and down. And if you don't have any props and can find full balasana here, or forward folding in that way, please do so. If it's really hard on your knees, you can always take a fold where the legs are just crossed and or cobbler's pose, legs extended. That tends to be a lot harder on the hamstrings, but taking a forward fold, we're not here quite as long. Be patient with it. Find your breath. So much of our lungs are in our back body and go behind us. And part of our human experience is what we don't see, we don't maybe think of or consider. And so in this mindful practice of yoga, you have a chance to reference your lungs that exist in your back body. So really, in this fold in particular, exaggerate the inhale into the muscles of the back of the lungs. Really open up from your mid-low back all the way into the shoulders, the base of the skull. The intent is to fold onto ourselves and turn inward. Do we have a story as we go into this pose? I can't do this. I'm not able. I love this pose. It's my favorite. It doesn't have to look a particular way, right? Just start to observe your experiences. Maybe what you avoid, what you seek. As we start to take note of those things, and we can observe the patterns. In forward folds, when I turn into myself, I become claustrophobic and my mind becomes tense and my shoulders become tense and I can feel it. Or when I'm in a back bend, I'm anxious. The pose might be more soothing. Just you might feel it in the chatter of the thoughts. It starts to calm the mind down. We don't know unless we check in. So just keep checking in, keep coming back. You have your head turned to one side, and you can turn it to the other. If you're feeling any numbness, any sleepiness, tingliness in your knee joints, you can slowly come up and sit up tall, and you'll extend your legs out, let the blood flow. can fold over straight legs or come back to child's pose, but we're more than halfway done. So just keep breathing wherever you are, whatever this looks like. Take your last 5 cycles of breath in this pose. 5 more inhales and exhale. Noticing where you can expand on the breath in, where you might be able to let go on the breath out. Use the breath as a tool to support the pose. A deep breath in, a full breath out. Slowly coming out of the fold. You can just swing your legs to one side. So coming out of it, bring them out in front of you. Toes can come in and out. Take a moment, just sit tall, maybe hands rest on the legs, take a deep breath in, feeling the blood flow through the knees, the hips. Exhale, soften. And then we're gonna take our long pose, our long hold pose here next. And your blanket will be useful if you have one for behind the head. So when we do legs up the wall, I try to be super clear about how to make this most accessible. And most of the time what I see is students tend to forget that as we get into the pose. So I'm gonna break it down for you here in a second, but if you have your strap, your block, or your belt, I try to think about hip width-ish apart. So the boundaries around your legs should go around your shins, and yeah, it doesn't have to be much tighter than your hips. If your tool, your support tool for the practice can bring your legs closer together, then that's totally up to you. But what will happen is, as you get in legs up the wall, your femurs sink into your hips, and then slowly your legs will want to separate. So we're trying to bind them, create boundaries, so the legs stay put. And yeah, just people get real creative with this. You can have sandbags if you have like somebody nearby to help you. Put them on your feet, put a little weight on it. But a blanket just behind the head and the tip top of your shoulders might feel nice, okay? And I mean tip top like literally half an inch of the top of your shoulders. It doesn't have to be a lot of support there. And the thing I'm telling you about when I see students do is the goal of this pose is to go back first, okay? Feet so close to your wall. If you're using a couch, a chair, or something else, you want to be right up on it, like right up in its business, okay? And then you lay down. Then you scoot the legs up. The strap will go along the shins. Woo, great. There we go. And voila, my butt is touching this wall, okay? It is lightly resting up against it. If do something that looks like this, your butt will now be away from the wall. I really want you to think about staying super close, tight, tight, tight. Go down first, then go back. And you can have a blanket, like I said, under the head and the very top of your shoulders. We're gonna be here for 10 minutes, okay? 10 minutes might feel like an eternity, especially with yourself in a pose and in a space you might be sharing with others. Be patient with yourself. Remember that this is a practice. We do this over and over again. And like a muscle, it grows stronger the more often we visit it. So stillness, presence, they all take practice. If you don't have a strap, you can still do legs up the wall. Just know that the separation of the legs is a really natural experience. And I'll keep track of time. You take care of you and just try to breathe. When the mind wanders off, be kind to yourself. Be patient. You can't know what you're thinking until you slow down and check in. You don't really notice the patterns of our thoughts until we practice observing our thoughts over and over. So in a short class, you might see a lot of thoughts, you might see a few. There's nothing wrong with any example of that, something in between. This is a place to just observe without judgment. And it is a place to practice your power. You can choose to be generous with yourself, to be gracious if the thoughts don't honor you, if they don't remind you that you are enough, if they tell you that you need to do things differently or be differently, exist differently. Maybe choosing a story, a narrative that honors you, that sees you as you are, whole and enough. Keep breathing, observing your breath. Are there moments or thoughts that trigger you to hold the breath? For me, it's often when I become anxious about the future, when I'm thinking about what's yet to come, I can catch myself clenching, holding, freezing. My brain tries to solve a problem the most efficient way to get X, Y, Z done. Where we put our attention, our energy goes. Pay attention to the breath, the moment at hand. You're more than halfway there. Just keep breathing. Observe the experience. The air around your skin, the ground supporting you, the wall, the props. Take our last 5 breaths here, 5 cycles in and out. As you exhale, you'll walk your feet in, down the wall, knees into your chest. Got a chair or a couch, you might place your arches on the edge of the seat and just offer a little pressure, push in so you can draw the knees closer to the torso of the upper body, the thigh bones growing closer. Come over onto the side, pause. Take a long breath in. And a full breath out. And slowly, with a hand supporting you, maybe you'll lean up against the wall if that's where you chose to take this last pose. You can sit on a block, kneeling or cross-legged. You might choose to rest in a chair or on the couch with your feet planted. We want to try to stack up our spine. So notice if your sit bones are a little more tucked. Naturally, you're sitting on the back of your butt. Or if you're leaning forward, tilting the pelvis. Try to find a spot right in between with the sit bones plugging in, like a plug into an outlet, rooting into the ground beneath you. And your crown, like an antenna, lifted and reaching, extending upward. Allow your hands to rest comfortably on your legs, maybe the palms stacked. Closing the eyes, let's take a long breath in. And a full breath out. Feeling the inhale, the belly stretching, the ribs expanding, the collarbone lifting. Exhale, try to keep the space in the body. Feel your ribs compress in. Plug in through your sit bones, reach up through the crown. Breathe in. Breathe out. Find space from your right hip to your left shoulder as you inhale. You exhale. Soften. Feel room from your left hip to your right shoulder as you inhale. Exhale, feel your ribs compress in. Breathe in room from your front of your left shoulder to the back of your right shoulder blade. Same thing from the right side, right front of your shoulder to the back, outside of your left shoulder blade. From your sit bones to your crown, breathe in. Your left hip to your right hip, your left hip to your right shoulder, your right hip to your left shoulder. And exhale, let the breath soften. Allow the palms to meet over the heart. Allow yourself to take up space. And just bring to mind something you're grateful for today. hold it here with you, lifting the thumbs to the third eye. May it inspire your thoughts, thumbs to the lips, which become our words, and thumbs back to your heart, which become our actions, our behaviors, our habits, our stories, the ones we tell ourselves. May they remind us that we are whole. I look forward to your practice. Namaste.